All right, good afternoon, everybody. All right, good afternoon. My name is Captain Chris Beecher. I'm a firefighter EMT here in town. First off, I'd like to thank Superintendent Smith, Principal Page, and staff for allowing this assembly to happen. Very short notice. I think I met with them last week, asked if we could carve out just a little bit of time to talk about something that seems to be at the forefront of conversation lately. So it's teen driving, and I know that most of you either have your license or getting your license, you have your permit. But I just thought in light of some recent incidents in both our town and Longmeadow, it'd be a good idea to just try and see if I could get you folks to look at things in a different perspective. If you've had driver's ed, you've seen the movies, you've had the speeches, your folks have told you what you can and can't do, and that's not why I'm here. I'm not going to sit up here and lecture what some of the best things you can do in the laws, and I can quote statistics and all that. I thought about doing a PowerPoint presentation, but that's really boring. We all know how that works. I put it up on the screen, I read it, you look at it, and that's the end of it. So what I was hoping was that some of the words that I talk about today are a little bit more impactful than a PowerPoint presentation. Officer Healy was going to join me today as well. We were going to kind of tag team this, but he was called away, so you get just me. You're welcome. So there's a couple core things that's the big heavy hitters when it comes to teen driving. First of all, raise your hand. Who here has their license already? Wow. Who here has just their permit? Okay. So I guess I got the right audience, right? Junior operators, younger operators, inexperienced operators. And I don't say inexperienced in a bad way. You just don't have a lot of practice driving. I could probably have this class for a ton of grown-ups in this town as well, and hit on the same things, and it would still be just as appropriate. Okay? But if I put a flyer out in town and said, hey, anybody want to come to the high school and hear me talk about safe driving, I'd probably get myself and Don Mackey. All right? Couple of things that we look at from a first responder point of view. That's kind of where I want to take your minds a little bit today. It's not just what the laws are, what you can do as a junior operator, okay? There are choices that you will make that will impact you, friends, family for the rest of your life, okay? And that's kind of where I really want you to see it from, all right? Distracted driving is the big one. We all know that, right? Don't text and drive. We see signs on the highway. We talk about it all the time. We kind of drive at home. That's the big distracted driving thing, right? But it's more than that. Distracted driving is anything that takes your attention away from the road. And that's anything, all right? Sure, texting is one of them. If you have any car that was manufactured in 2018 or newer, you probably have the big, visual screen display on your dashboard that tells you when someone's calling. You can even hit the ignore button if you want, okay? That's still time. That's still eyes away from the road. That's still time that you're traveling and you're not paying attention to what's going on the road, all right? Smartwatches. They vibrate, they alert, they tell you when you got an incoming call, a text message, or this, that, and the other thing, all right? Those are all things. You feel your arm vibrate, you look at your wrist, okay? Eyes are still off the road. And I'd be lying to you if I said that everybody besides you guys just drove with hands at 10 and 2 and looked forward and straight. That's not how it works. I walk to work every day. I do 3 crosswalks between here and the fire station. I usually wait a significant amount of time to be able to cross because somebody is not paying attention going through the crosswalk, and it's not someone your age. It's not a teen driver. Okay? Adults are doing this too. But because you're new, because you're inexperienced, I think this is the right target, okay? Because you're going to make some choices over the next couple of years that are really going to impact how the rest of your life goes. Not just driving, but in anything, right? You've been handed a pretty big responsibility. Probably your first real responsibility as young adults is being given a driver's license. Okay? You are in control of this vehicle. Okay, this big, heavy vehicle that goes, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and you're in charge of making sure that this thing does everything it's supposed to do. That's a big responsibility for a 16 or 17-year-old kid. That's a big responsibility. I know 50-year-olds that can't handle that responsibility very well. All right? As a first responder, we see it all the time. We are a 14-ton ladder truck with lights and sirens coming down the road, and for some reason, people don't hear or see us. Okay? Newer cars are a little bit more insulated. You certainly got better sound systems than what I had for a car when I was a kid. Maybe you don't hear us, but there's no way you can miss us. Our brake lights are better than any lights on most emergency vehicles. Okay? People don't see us. They pull out in front of us. They don't pull over. If they do pull over, they still go the speed limit, but just on the side of the road. Okay? When you see an emergency vehicle, just pull over, let us through. All right? A lot of the reason people don't pull over is because they don't see us. There's a lot of everything going on in a car but driving. Okay? Distraction. Your passengers are a distraction. Good or bad, they're still a distraction. Okay? As junior operators, okay, under the age of 18, you aren't allowed to have anyone that's not a family member under the age of 18 in your car. Okay? I know you know that because you all took your license and permit tests, and I'm sure that was on the test somewhere. All right? But that's the case. The chances of getting into a vehicle crash for a teen driver double if you have one passenger. They triple if you have two passengers. If you have 3 17-year-old kids in a car, there's a good chance that there's a lot of distraction going on in the car. Okay? You can control a lot of what happens when you're driving. You can't control the 6-year-old kid that runs between the cars in the parking lot. You can't control the car that's going to pull out of the side street at the very last minute. All right? And you certainly can't control what the person in the other car is doing. I always tell my daughter, who is 21, I said, I trust you. It's everyone else I don't trust. Okay? Because I don't know what they're doing in their cars. I have no idea. I've seen a lot of what people do in their cars. It's a lot of everything else but driving. Junior operator license, which is what I'm assuming every one of you is operating under right now, only allow you to do certain things. Right? You're not supposed to drive after midnight, 12:30 to 5 a.m. You're not supposed to be driving on a junior license. You're not supposed to have passengers in your cars that aren't related to you that are under the age of 18. If you get caught and cited, you could lose on the first offense your license for 2 months. Okay, 60 days. Second offense, 90 days. Right? So if you left here today and you got pulled over and you lost your license for 2 months, you have lost an entire summer's worth of driving. Right? Summer's a big time. You have graduation parties coming up that friends and family may be holding. You have beach trips. You have back and forth to work. Imagine the inconvenience of losing your license for 2 months. It's a huge inconvenience, not just for you, but for whoever who has to give you a ride to wherever you're going. Okay? Those decisions you make are going to impact you, whether it's because you don't have your car for 2 months, or it's because you're not allowed to drive for a significant amount of time. Okay? I know people that have lost their license indefinitely for the poor choices they made. All right? Imagine being a 60-year-old person and you're not allowed to drive. The state says you are a danger to everyone on the road. Okay? That's the choice he made when he was younger. All right? I know there's a ton of distractions in cars. I get it. I'm not telling you not to use your smartphones. I'm not telling you not to, that's not what this is about. It's about thinking for a second, taking a second and thinking about what the decision you're going to make is going to do for the rest of your life. Okay? A minor accident, small fender bender, right? You could be without your car for 2 to 3 weeks. Could cost you, or who's ever paying for your insurance, a significant surcharge. It means your insurance goes up. There's a lot that goes beyond just that accident. The accident's the tip of the iceberg. You know, they always say the tip of the iceberg is really small, and then everything under the water is massive. The accident's the small part. It's every ripple that comes after that, the inconvenience. If it's a minor accident, it's just a minor inconvenience, but it's still an inconvenience. If it's a major accident, we know that those consequences travel far beyond just losing your license for a couple months, or for just not being able to drive, right? Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're texting. Think about what text you're reading. Think about what song it is you want to hear on your phone through your Bluetooth that you have to change right now. Think about how important it really is. Imagine losing your car or affecting someone else's life or health because you had to order Chipotle now, because you had to see what the group text was all about, okay? Think about how that impacts everybody. And it impacts you far beyond you. It impacts first responders. It impacts insurance companies. It impacts your friends and families. Okay? It impacts your teammates. It goes beyond you. Right? We could drive distracting driving into the ground. Just be aware. You know, when you cut through a parking lot and you just start weaving in between cars to get out, most people aren't looking for a car that come out between two other cars in a parking lot. In fact, most people, if you watch them in a parking lot, aren't really paying attention anyways. Okay? Be aware of those people. Not everyone is super vigilant. Not everyone holds their kid's hand in a parking lot or on a sidewalk. Right? And if anybody knows a 5th, 6th, 7-year-old child, they don't usually react rationally to anything. If they're mad, they'll run away from you. Okay? If they drop something, they'll stop and pick it up. They don't look for traffic. They don't look for cars. They haven't learned that yet. You guys have to be aware of that. That's a responsibility that comes with driving. Whether you're 16, 17, 20, 30, 40 years old, it doesn't matter. That responsibility still holds true for all of you. All right? Seatbelts. There's only 3 of these. Distracted driving. Seatbelts, that's the big one. I know you know to wear your seatbelt, so we're not even going to drive it home. All right? But honestly, if you have ever been in any kind of vehicle crash, minor or not, it's violent. A car crash is violent. Have you ever heard like this, the tires screech and then the car hits and you think you're going to turn around and see a car on its roof and you just see 2 cars that are just kind of real minor damage? Car accidents are violent. Everything that's in a car that's not restrained moves, including the passengers, including the driver. It's your responsibility as a driver to make sure that everyone in that car does have a seatbelt on. That is your responsibility, and no one else's. The amount of seatbelts in a vehicle dictate how many people should be in the vehicle, okay? Sitting on the lap of a seatbelted passenger does not qualify as a seatbelted person, I assure you. If you have more people than you have seatbelts, someone should be taking a different car, okay? That responsibility is going to fall on you. If there is an accident, and the police don't need an excuse to pull you over if they see that many people in a car. They can pull you over, all right? They can cite you for that. And going back to what I said before about the junior operator and the passengers in your car, if it's found that the kids in the car are not related to you and they're younger, then you could lose your license. 2 months maybe doesn't seem like a lot of time, but trust me, if you've lost your license, 2 months seems like forever. Seeing how you've waited 16 and a half years to get it, imagine losing it right away. I've heard people say, I don't need a seatbelt, I have airbags. Airbags are helpful. Airbags are also violent, okay? Airbags just prevent you from hitting something in front of you or on the side. They still hurt, okay? If you have a seatbelt on and you have an airbag deployment, you can still get injured, although minor, from an airbag. If you don't have a seatbelt and you have an airbag, you're going to meet that airbag full on. Okay? The airbag is secondary to what a seatbelt can prevent. Okay? The last one. Drinking and driving. We have heard this since I was a teen driver. Don't drink and drive. Great advice, right? That's pretty solid advice. Does everyone adhere to it? Absolutely not. Okay? If you make the choice to get behind the wheel of a car when you're intoxicated and something happens, you will be at fault. Think about the impact beyond that moment. I know everyone says they're good to drive. I know how it works, right? Everyone that gets pulled over only had 2 beers. I've seen it, I've heard it all the time when we go to car accidents, and we go to a ton of car accidents, okay? You might not think you're impaired. You could be. That 2 beer thing, that 2 drink, alcohol doesn't taste like alcohol anymore, right? You might not even realize how intoxicated you're getting because alcohol doesn't taste like you're drinking alcohol. It tastes like juice, or it tastes like something, different. And it's good, so you just keep having it until you realize it's too late that it's affected you the way it does, okay? Beer doesn't just come in one size and shape anymore. Beer comes in different percentages of alcohol. You might not realize it. 1 beer, no problem. That 1 beer might be the equivalent of 2 average beers. If you've been drinking, just don't drive. Just don't take the chance. Even if you don't cause the accident and someone hits you, you're still intoxicated. You're still going to be responsible for whatever happened, and you're still going to have to pay the consequences of it. It's okay to have fun as teenagers. I'm not going to sit here, I'm not your parent. Okay? I'm a parent, but I'm not your parent. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot do. I just want you to understand that the impact goes far beyond that moment. Okay? Those 3 or 4 hours of that great time you just had, okay? That time ends when you're in the car accident. It belongs to everybody else at that point. That time belongs to your passengers. It belongs to the first responders that are coming to your accident. Okay? It belongs to the EMS crew that's transporting you or your passengers. It belongs to the nurses and doctors in the emergency room. It belongs to rehab staff at wherever you're getting your rehabilitation done. It belongs to your teammates who are counting on you to be present for whatever sport it is you play. It belongs to your parents and your siblings. Think beyond that moment, just for a second. And if 200 of you walk out of here thinking, this guy nailed it, he hit it home, I'm just going to follow the big 3 and that's it. We are never going to drive distracted, we're wearing our seatbelts, and we are never drinking and driving. If I believe that to be true, I probably wouldn't be a firefighter. I'd be some kind of motivational speaker making a whole lot more money than I'm making. But man, if some of you just take a second and think about some of the stuff that I was talking about and how it impacts beyond yourself and beyond that moment, and you make the choice not to do one of those things, or to remind those in your car to wear their seatbelts, if you take that moment and do that, then this half hour is well served. For myself, for you, for anybody. Okay? The East Long Meadow Fire Department responds to 3,000 medical calls a year. About 10% of those are car accidents. About 3% of those are serious car accidents. Okay? Nobody is in their best light when they've been in a car accident. I've seen parents come to calls where their child was involved, and the child's not even hurt, and they are losing their minds. Because the sight of their son or daughter on a stretcher or surrounded by medical personnel, that's pretty troubling for a parent. Okay? It's impactful. If that's the only accident you ever got into in your life, great. That'd be amazing. It's not the only accident that first responders are going to see. It might not be the only one they're going to see in a 24-hour shift. Okay? It impacts us as well. We have kids your age that are driving. I'm a resident of this town. I walk all over the place. My kids drive in this town. I walk through parking lots in this town with my 7-year-old daughter. I don't want there to just be a ton of maniacs out there driving around, not paying attention, looking down, changing the radio station on their phone, or picking out a better song than what's playing now. I don't want anything to happen to me or my family. As a father, as a resident, as a first responder, I have a lot of skin in the game here. And I'm counting on all of you to at least consider your decision before you make it. Before you pull the pin on that and say, all right, we're doing this. We are just going to get in the car and go. Take a minute. Did I drink too much? Do I feel exactly the same as I did before I got to the party? Should I put this 5th person in my car even though I only have 4 seatbelts? Is the song I'm listening to good enough to get me from here half a mile down the road? If you can consider beyond that moment and it stops you from doing something, then I would say that this assembly is a success. Okay? When I put this together, I met with Superintendent Smith, I met with Principal Page, and I sat down and said, I want to do something. I know it's short notice. We wanted to let some time pass from the events that had happened recently. But we wanted to do something. And there's a ton of stuff that you'll see other towns do, and it's extraordinary. And I didn't know really how I wanted to approach it. And I said, well, maybe we'll do the PowerPoint, the one I was talking about. And I said, I know how PowerPoints go. I've been in a ton of them. They're very boring. And then I was coming back from Enfield that afternoon, and the car coming at me had a kid, if you're in this room, I apologize, hanging out the passenger side window of his car, videoing it on his phone. And I said, I don't want to do anything but just try and reach a group of people and have them understand the impact of their decision. That whole scene could have gone horrifically wrong. A deer runs out, car pulls out, driver slams on the brakes for any reason, jerks the wheel. That kid is on the pavement. Okay? Those are the decisions I'm trying to talk about. We won't even get into the whole social media TikTok thing, because 1, I don't understand it, and 2, I don't understand it. So, but I said at that moment, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to try and at least reach out as a human and just see if I can reach somebody and make them try and reconsider a poor decision they may make. And I talked to the fire chief, and he said, absolutely go for it. You have nothing to lose. And I don't. Okay? This is my off time. I am not on duty today. Okay? But I felt this was so important for me to come in and have this conversation. And then I talked to Officer Healy, he felt the same way. You know, and he's disappointed he couldn't get here today either. My goal is to continue this program throughout. As we move into next year, you know, the seniors, obviously we got here a little late for that, and I understand that, but I think your group is a great group, because if you're not driving already, if you're driving already, then you know what I'm talking about. If you're not driving already and you're in the midst of learning to do it, okay? Think about it. Think about what you're going to do. Huge responsibility. Like I said, it's the first major responsibility you have as young adults. all right? Unless somebody's hiding some massive, cool thing they do on their days off. Like, no one here runs like a Fortune 500 company. No one's in charge of like 600 people in the military. Like, everyone here is just a student, correct? Perfect. This is a big responsibility. Do not take it lightly, okay? Because this is kind of like, this is your freedom. Your car and your license enables you to do things without having to rely on somebody else, okay? Guys, thanks for your time here today. I do appreciate it, thank you.